you. Thank you. I like to call my story, If You Look Close, You Can Still See the Stain. When I was a kid, and of course I was raised by a father who was a big practical joker, so I think I inherited it honestly. And I was the kind of kid that raised by my father after my folks had divorced. One of the remnants that was left behind of my mom leaving was this carpet runner that we had in the house, which was plastic on top. So it wasn't at least on the sofa, but it was on the carpet in the hallway leading to the bedrooms. One of my favorite things to do was to always, because I always got up much earlier than my father, was to take the carpet runner, which had wonderful little rubber spikes on the bottom of it, and turn it over. And every morning when my father got up, he would walk out onto the carpet runner, explicative, 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 and from the living room you would hear little Davy. But I learned this from my father, who naturally was always pulling practical jokes as well, he ran a jewelry store, and at times he would take what is known as a jeweler's loop, which is the little piece that you would take and put in your eye to look at a piece of jewelry. And on his Watchman, the person who repaired the watches, he would always take it and put it in a pad of ink. And then when the watchman would pick it up, he would put it on, take it off, and then all day long he looked like Petey from the Little Rascals. Which for some of you who are too young to know that, it was a dog a long time ago who ran around with a circle on his eye. So that's poor Jimmy always had to do that. So I feel honestly and sincerely that I inherited this very, very honestly through my father. But on Saturdays, I would have to go and stay with my grandmother. My father worked, and so I would go and stay with her and hang out. Now, my Aunt Janice, she was about 13 years older than I was. So when I was very young, she was still in the late teens. And there was one night, it was a Saturday night, and as everybody knows this time of year with fall and how wonderful it is, and it's starting to get crisp, and we start thinking of things as tonight's theme as well about what gets scary. Well, you can always count on TBS to run just about every scary movie of the day over and over again, which back then consisted of Halloween, Alien, and I'm not sure if Chucky was out at the time, but you get the idea, and it was pretty much nonstop. Well, there's a time that I had actually seen Alien, and we're talking about the original one, the one that really defined the horror genre of science fiction. And I had seen it as a child. I know I wasn't supposed to because it was a rated R, but my father drank. So it was a whole story of me seeing Jaws in first grade too, but that's for another night. So I had seen Alien, and from the other room, I heard my Aunt Janice watching that movie. And I thought, wow, that's kind of neat. She's watching the movie, and I know I'd seen it. And I kind of came along and came to the room, and I was going to say something to her, and I realized because the door was closed. And I looked through, and I saw it was almost at the most famous scene ever from Alien. And in case you haven't seen it, it's the one where the little critter comes popping out of the dude's stomach, right? Well, at the time, even though I was a young man cusping on a little bit of an older man, I had a favorite stuffed animal that just went with me everywhere, and he was my Snoopy. Typical Charlie Brown Snoopy. Big nose, big white, big fluffy ears, and all that. So as I am standing at the door, and she doesn't know that I'm there, and I look and I see that scene is about to happen. Now remember, I'm a little whimsical. So I look down at my Snoopy, I look at the TV set, and I take a step back and I look at the opening in the door, and I realize, I may be able to make this perfect shot at the perfect time. And right when the guy falls over in the movie and starts flailing back, and I see my Aunt Janice getting very close with the pillow, and she had a glass of sweet tea in her hand as well, and she's pulling up closer because she could tell something's about to happen. The guy's writhing, right, and he's gyrating, he's going, and something's coming out of the stomach, and right at the perfect time when that little head popped up, I had already launched Snoopy perfectly into the room, perfectly between the door, landed right on her, hit her right when the dude popped up. Of course, She screams. My grandmother comes running from another room, and the iced tea that she was drinking went flying up on the ceiling. So that's why I say, if you look closely, you can still see the stain.